Something that we've discussed numerous times about going back after, and we just never have. Or maybe we have.
At just 30 years old, Buck Jacob Lowe has shattered years of silence, and his revelation about the end of Mountain Monsters is more shocking than anyone imagined. Fans have long wondered why the Ames team disappeared at the height of their fame, why the explosive cliffhanger of Season 8 never paid off, and why one of the Travel Channel's biggest hits suddenly went dark. The answer isn't monsters, ratings, or drama, it's something far deeper. And this truth changes everything you thought you knew. The answer wasn't the monsters they chased in the Appalachian woods. It wasn't because ratings dropped, and it wasn't because the team had run out of mysteries. The truth was something far more personal, a story of grief, exhaustion, and above all, a promise made to John "Trapper" Tice that could never be broken. And now, with Buck breaking his silence, fans finally understand why Mountain Monsters ended and how its legacy has been reborn in a completely new way. To understand how it all unraveled, you have to go back to March 13th, 2022, a date etched into the memory of every Mountain Monsters fan. That night marked the finale of Season 8. Buck, Huckleberry, Wild Bill, Jeff, and Willie captured what many called the most compelling Bigfoot evidence in television history. Viewers saw their faces light up as they replayed the footage, a massive figure moving through the Tygart Valley. Social media exploded with excitement. Fans were convinced this was just the beginning of a new golden era. Travel Channel executives had already mapped out production schedules for more seasons. The show was at its highest ratings. The cliffhanger at the end of Season 8 seemed to promise more adventures, but for those who looked closely, something felt off. The thrill that once fueled the Ames team through the rugged backcountry of West Virginia had dimmed. And nowhere was it more visible than in Buck Jacob Lowe. The rookie, once full of fire and youthful energy, now carried himself differently. His once bright enthusiasm seemed replaced with a heavy burden, as though something weighed on him far beyond the thrill of the hunt. What should have been a triumphant finale to Season 8 instead carried a haunting silence that no one could explain. That silence had a name, and it dated back to December 16th, 2019, the day the Ames team lost their leader, John "Trapper" Tice. For the men of the mountains, this wasn't just the death of a teammate. It was the shattering of the foundation on which the entire show was built. Trapper wasn't simply in charge. He was the glue that held everything together, the compass pointing the team toward its true purpose. A decorated military veteran, he embodied discipline and loyalty. But even more than that, he carried a deep respect for the folklore, the people, and the very wilderness they explored. He insisted the show remain rooted in authenticity, never exploiting those who shared their stories, never mocking the traditions passed down through generations, and never twisting Appalachian culture into cheap spectacle. When Trapper passed, that guiding force was gone. The Ames team tried to push forward, even dedicating Season 7 in his honor. Yet it was clear to everyone, on screen and behind the cameras, that things had changed. Buck, once the clumsy rookie who struggled to keep up, now found himself thrust into a position of unexpected leadership. Suddenly, he wasn't just following orders. He was making decisions, both in the wilderness and in front of the executives who demanded results. And that's when the true conflict began. From its earliest days, Mountain Monsters had carved out its place in the crowded world of paranormal television because of one defining trait: authenticity. Unlike other shows that staged scares and manufactured evidence, the Ames team dug into real Appalachian folklore. They interviewed genuine witnesses, searched actual locations, and treated every story with care. It was this raw honesty that drew fans in and gave the show its heart. But with Trapper gone, the battle to protect that authenticity would become harder than ever. But as the show grew in popularity, the pressure to keep raising the stakes grew unbearable. Network executives demanded bigger monsters, clearer confrontations, and more explosive drama. They wanted to turn the Appalachian woods into a Hollywood production. Behind the cameras, production became grueling. Filming an episode wasn't just wandering through the wilderness, it meant 18-hour days, hauling hundreds of pounds of equipment through dangerous terrain, staging lighting setups in swamps, and repeating takes to satisfy production crews. Conversations that lasted hours were chopped into sound bites. Investigations that once felt raw and organic were simplified into formulaic hunts. Buck began to watch the show transform into something he barely recognized. Scenes were edited to emphasize drama over investigation, and what once felt authentic started looking staged. Music and effects were added to make ordinary moments feel terrifying, stripping away the natural tension that made the series unique. Executives started floating ideas that horrified him. CGI monsters, scripted witnesses, even staged encounters designed to boost ratings. To Buck, these changes weren't just creative shifts, they were betrayals. The soul of Mountain Monsters was slipping away, and he feared the show's true spirit might never return. Just 3 months before his death, Trapper had called Buck to his porch for one final conversation. It was a talk that would haunt him for years. Trapper told him the truth. Television would tempt them with shortcuts, fake evidence, manufactured drama, empty spectacle. He warned Buck not to let the show betray its mission, not to exploit the people who trusted them, and not to sell out the folklore they were there to protect. Then Trapper made him promise something. Always remember why we started this journey. And never be afraid to stop when it stops serving that purpose. Those words weighed heavily on Buck as he watched the show drift further from its roots. When the executives finally pitched Season 9, with actors playing witnesses, constructed sets, and computer-generated monsters, Buck knew the choice was clear. He could accept fame, money, and security, or he could honor Trapper's legacy. By September 2024, the truth was undeniable. Despite Mountain Monsters being one of the Travel Channel's most successful shows, Buck and the Ames team refused to sign on for another season. Publicly, the network said the team had completed their mission. But privately, they knew they couldn't continue without betraying everything Trapper had taught them. The cliffhanger at the end of Season 8 hadn't been meant as a finale. It was supposed to set up the next chapter, but instead it became their silent goodbye, a refusal to compromise. The team agreed unanimously, better to end the show at its peak than let it be turned into something fake. For nearly 3 years, fans were left in the dark. Buck, Huckleberry, and Wild Bill vanished from television. Rumors swirled. Was the team gone for good? But behind the silence, they were planning something new. Something that would honor Trapper's memory without network interference. In June 2025, they returned, not on cable, but on YouTube, with a brand new project called Sons of Appalachia. Unlike the network show, Sons of Appalachia is raw, stripped down, and completely under their control. No fake drama, no executives pulling strings, just real investigations, authentic folklore, and the camaraderie that made fans love them in the first place. The production might not have the polish of a big-budget show, but what it does have is authenticity. And for the Ames team, that's worth more than any Hollywood spectacle. They can finally take the time to explore folklore in depth, develop genuine relationships with witnesses, and present their findings without artificial edits. For the first time since Trapper's passing, they are free to work on their own terms. So why did Mountain Monsters end when it was more popular than ever? It wasn't ratings, it wasn't infighting, and it wasn't because they ran out of creatures. It ended because Buck, Jacob Lowe, and the Ames team refused to betray their mission. They chose integrity over money. They chose authenticity over spectacle. And above all, they chose to honor the promise made to John Trapper Tice. For Buck, that promise meant more than fame or fortune. It meant respecting the Appalachian communities, protecting their folklore, and ensuring that their work never became a lie. Today, the legacy of Mountain Monsters lives on not just in reruns, but in the choices the team made. Their battles behind the cameras were as real as any hunt they ever filmed. Battles between authenticity and profit, folklore and exploitation, truth and spectacle. And through it all, Trapper's voice continues to guide them. His teachings, discipline, respect, authenticity, are etched into every step they now take in the wilderness. The story of Mountain Monsters wasn't just about creatures in the woods. It was about the men who stood up to protect something bigger, the truth. So now it's your turn. Did Buck Jacob Lowe make the right choice? Walking away from fame and fortune to protect the heart of Mountain Monsters? Or should the Ames team have carried on, even under the network's grip? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. And if you enjoyed uncovering the untold truth behind one of America's most legendary shows, be sure to hit that like button, share this video with fellow fans, and subscribe for more powerful stories. Because the hunt for truth never ends. Thanks for watching.